Your nervous system remembers what trauma you forgot. She woke up gasping again, heart pounding, body drenched in sweat, even though the dream itself had already disappeared. No memory, no reason, just the sensation of falling through something she couldn't name. For years, she thought it was stress. Maybe anxiety. Maybe just who she was now, someone who couldn't relax, couldn't sleep through the night, couldn't stop scanning every room she entered. But what if the body was trying to tell her something her mind had buried long ago? Most of us walk through life believing memory lives in the brain. We think forgetting means it's gone, erased, harmless, behind us, but researchers discovered something unsettling. The nervous system doesn't forget. It records everything, especially what we tried hardest to leave behind. Trauma isn't just a memory you can choose to revisit or ignore. It's encoded in the tissues, the reflexes, the way your breath shortens when someone raises their voice. Your body holds the script, even when your mind burns the pages. She didn't remember the accident. She was only 4. Her family never talked about it, and over time, it became a story she wasn't even sure had happened. But her body remembered. Every time she got into a car, her chest tightened. Every sudden break sent her into panic she couldn't explain. She thought she was just nervous, sensitive, overreacting to nothing. Then one day, during a routine therapy session, her therapist asked her to close her eyes and notice what her body was feeling. Within seconds, her hands went cold. Her jaw clenched, a wave of nausea rose up from nowhere. "What's happening right now?" the therapist asked gently. She couldn't answer, she didn't know. But her body did. Neuroscientists call this implicit memory, experiences stored outside conscious awareness, living instead in the nervous system's automatic responses. You might not remember the event, but your body still reacts as if it's happening right now. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, one of the world's leading trauma researchers, spent decades studying how trauma reshapes the brain and body. He found that traumatic memories aren't stored like normal memories. They bypass the hippocampus, the part of the brain that organizes events into a timeline. Instead, they lodge in the amygdala, the brain's alarm system, and in the body itself, muscles, fascia, even the gut. That's why someone can have no memory of abuse but flinch at certain touch. No memory of a crash but freeze at the sound of screeching tires. The body becomes the keeper of what the mind refused to hold. She started noticing patterns she'd never connected before. The way she held her breath during any conflict. The tightness in her shoulders that no massage could release. The way she avoided certain streets without knowing why. Her nervous system had been speaking for years. She just didn't know the language yet. Part of her didn't want to believe it. Didn't want to admit that something she couldn't even remember was still controlling her life. But another part of her, the part that was exhausted from running, wanted to understand. What she learned changed everything. Trauma doesn't just live in the past. It lives in the present, in the way your body prepares for danger that isn't there anymore. It's the hypervigilance, the chronic tension, the unexplained pain, the feeling that you're always waiting for something bad to happen. Researchers at Harvard found that people with unresolved trauma often develop what's called somatic symptoms, physical pain, fatigue, digestive issues with no clear medical cause, because the body is still processing what the mind never could. She started working with a somatic therapist, someone trained to help the body release what it had been holding. No talking through memories, no reliving the past. Just learning to listen to the sensations her body had been screaming for years. At first, it felt strange. Sitting in silence, noticing where tension lived, breathing into the tightness, letting her body shake, cry, or simply soften without needing to understand why. But slowly, something began to shift. The nightmares became less frequent. Her breath deepened. She could sit in a car without her heart racing. Not because she remembered what happened, but because her nervous system finally felt safe enough to let go. What surprised her most wasn't just how much her body had been holding, but how much relief came from simply acknowledging it. She wasn't broken. She wasn't overreacting. She was carrying something real, something her body had been trying to tell her all along. And when she finally listened, everything started to feel different. This isn't just her story. It's happening to millions of people who live with unexplained anxiety, chronic pain, or emotional numbness, never realizing their nervous system is still responding to trauma they don't consciously remember. Dr. Peter Levine, creator of Somatic Experiencing Therapy, explains it this way. Trauma isn't what happens to you. It's what happens inside you when you can't fully process what happened. The body gets stuck in survival mode, fight, flight, or freeze, waiting for a resolution that never comes, until you help it complete the cycle. She learned that healing trauma isn't about digging up the past or forcing herself to remember. It's about teaching her nervous system that the threat is over, that she's safe now, that she can finally rest. And that process doesn't happen in the mind. It happens in the body. Through breathwork, she learned to regulate her nervous system in real time, calming the panic before it spiraled. Through movement, she released tension her muscles had been gripping for decades. Through presence, she stopped living in a state of constant defense. Somewhere between the shaking and the stillness, she found something she hadn't felt in years: peace. Researchers at Stanford found something similar. When the body feels safe, the brain can finally start to heal. Trauma loses its grip, not when you remember it, but when your nervous system learns it no longer needs to protect you from it. She still doesn't remember the accident. Maybe she never will, but her body no longer needs her to. What surprised me most during my own journey with nervous system healing wasn't just how much somatic therapy and breathwork improved my experience with releasing stored tension, but how everything started to feel different once I switched to the right approach. I wasn't expecting such a clear change, and honestly, I tested different methods more than a few times before I figured out what really worked for me. This isn't a promotion, just sharing real results that made a noticeable difference in my life. I'll leave some resources below if you want to explore what I mean. When she looked in the mirror again, it wasn't her reflection that had changed. It was what she believed about herself. She wasn't fragile. She wasn't damaged. She was strong enough to carry what she couldn't remember and brave enough to finally put it down. Your nervous system remembers what trauma you forgot, but it also remembers every moment you chose to heal. Every breath you took when panic tried to take over. Every time you stayed present when your body wanted to run. Healing isn't linear. It's not fast, and it doesn't look the same for everyone, but it's possible. Not because you have to dig up every painful memory, but because your body has been waiting for you to listen. And when you finally do, it knows exactly what to do. Tell us what part of this story resonated most and where you're watching from. See you in the next video. Bye.